Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our Migrant Leaders and Anglo-American webinar on career development tips. My name is Elham Fardod, and I am the founder and CEO of the charity Migrant Leaders. By way of introduction, I have spent 23 years as a finance director in companies such as GE, News Corp, and Ernst & Young, and launched Migrant Leaders back in 2017 to help young people like yourselves get into top companies and fulfill their potential. Without further ado, I am proud to continue collaborating with Anglo-American and De Beers. We have a number of their senior staff here, and without further ado, I am going to pass on to Jay, who will be presenting to you tonight about career development top tips. Thank you.
Thank you. And as Elin was saying, welcome everyone to this evening's session on career development top tips. My name is Jay Saxton Palmer, and I am the Head of Talent Management for Anglo-American Group. And I'm sure many of you don't actually know what I do based on that title, right? Head of Talent Management, what is that? And if you ask me to answer that question when I was your age, I wouldn't have known either. And that's because this role, my role, didn't exist back then. I also didn't know that this was a role that I wanted to do when I was 20. So how on earth did I get here? And that's really what this session is focusing on today, ensuring you're prepared for the jobs of the future and feel confident to follow a career path that gets you really excited to wake up in the morning, because that's what we're all here for, to enjoy work. So my agenda for today, and we have around half an hour of presentation and then half an hour really interactive with some of my colleagues. So I'm joined today by Agnes and Matt, two of my peers, and we will, between the three of us, share our career stories towards the end of the day. First, we'll start with the future of work, and then we'll touch on career resilience. So as part of career resilience, how do you build the skills needed to stay relevant in the future? And how are you going to build the confidence and understanding of yourself to know that you're taking the right direction? Please do ask questions as we go along. I'll try and keep an eye on the questions. I've got 3 screens, so if I look around, that's what I'm doing. But if not, I will leave time at the end for you to ask questions. Great, so let's first of all have some reflection. Before we dive into the content, what's your starting point? Where are you right now with your career and your career development? So the first question I want to ask you is, do you know what you want from your career? You can either write your answers in the chat, or you can be brave and ask, or you can just reflect and have a bit of a think. But on the career continuum, 1 to 10, and 10 being, I really know what I want. 1 being, I have literally 0 idea of what I want. Where are you on this scale? And probably closer to a 3 or a 4 might be, I have an idea, but I'm not really sure just yet. Where might you be on that score? We just have a look up here. And if you want, let's also ask the second question, because I think that might also help you in your thinking. So the second question is, how likely are you to make your career happen? So this is about motivation. So how ambitious and driven are you to make your career happen versus being a bit unmotivated at the moment? And actually there's an interesting correlation for you to consider between the two. So you might score really high on ambition and really low on knowing what you want. Or the reverse might be true. You might really know what you want, but not be motivated right now. And there could be something else that's going on in your life which is taking priority. But this really is you. Careers are down to you. Understanding where your starting point is, how clear you are about what you want, and how focused you are to get there is the starting point for your next steps. And hopefully as we go through the session today, the resources and tips will help to move the needle on either helping you know what you want or helping work through what might be some of the barriers that are holding you back or making you feel unmotivated. I can't see any of the chat, Ilham. Just let me know if there is any. Pop your hand up or anything. Great. So let's touch on the future of work and what's going to impact you as you start to navigate through your career. So there's a number of forces which are going to shape employment and workforce in the future. We're seeing an increased flexibility in contracting, shorter employment, the rise of the global workforce, digital nomads. I mean, this is all you guys, right? You don't want to work in an office. You want flexibility and you want a digital environment to be working in. To compound this, though, we're also going to see a big shift in demographics. So you guys are coming into the workforce, your expectations and needs are very different from my generation, very different from the baby boomer generation. You are also the first generation to work alongside your grandparents. So work dynamics are going to look really different as we move into the future. And some of the skills that are going to come important, and we'll move on to that in the next session, are going to become way more critical for us than they ever have done in the past. According to the World Economic Forum, more than 1 billion jobs, that is almost 1/3 of all jobs worldwide, are going to be transformed by technology in the next decade. And what we're seeing is a move away from degrees to skills. So whilst my parents probably had one job for life, most of us are going to have several, and you are going to have many jobs, many careers throughout your professional life. One of your biggest challenges is going to be carving out, alongside your own career, the mindset and the pressure perhaps of other people's expectations, who have come from a completely different way of working and value very different things as they went through their planning and their careers. So, I mean, how many of you have a parent who's probably trying to guide you towards a route of professionalism or the security of a permanent job? And whilst this might be helpful, it could be helpful, but it could also be outdated. So as I touched on earlier, we're seeing a real shift in careers and a shift in technology and demographics. The traditional career ladder that used to be is now falling away. Expertise is having a shorter life shelf as skills are constantly changing. Of course, climbing the ladder does still exist, but the idea of a single long-lasting career is something of the past. And so moving, horizontally, diagonally is more prevalent than it has been before, represented by this sort of climbing frame. It's becoming more common now for people to have 2 or 3 careers in their lives. And as the gig economy matures, we're seeing more people being able to play out more than one career at once. And in this analogy, wear more than one hat at once. So as I mentioned, this is exponentially different from your parents, from your grandparents, from your communities, and the rate of change is going to increase. Part of the challenge really for us and for you changing and managing your career is acknowledging the mindsets that are going to be placed on you and being sure that you're planning your career for you and not for anyone else. So how do you do that? So one of the ways that you can do that is by building career resilience. And career resilience is the ability to bounce back and carry on when your career doesn't go to plan. This model, which is the product of research by consultant Jackson Samuel, identified 3 overarching imperatives when it comes to building career resilience. And we'll take a deep dive on each of these today. First, you need to understand the market and the world that you're working in. And we've touched on how the future of work will change and how careers are changing. Next, you'll need to understand your skills and the skills for the future. And to be career resilient, individuals, you need to understand employability now comes from having a range of marketable skills, being adaptable, flexible, able to change your skills to the environment as and when that evolves, and continuing to learn and keep up with the pace of the market. Finally, understand yourself. What do you enjoy? How do you like spending your time? What do you value? It's about having an understanding of your current skills, but also how that applies to what you enjoy. So let's get practical and look at skills and decide on really what skills are necessary for the future. So a study by some top universities identified 5 future skills that you'll need in your career by 2030. What's interesting here is 4 out of the 5 are behavioural, human. As we see the increase of AI and automation, what makes us human is going to become much more important. Your ability to think flexibly, take informed judgments, use your emotional awareness, be innovative, creative, is going to become imperative for us in the future. Of course, SMAC, which stands for Social, Mobile, Analytics and Cloud, points to the management of technology by us humans and points to the increase of technology skills, which we all live in TikTok, we all know, that is the way that we're going to be moving. If we focus now on technical skills, these are the 5 critical technical skills that the Workforce Workshift Hub have identified as being crucial for the future. So if you're interested in business architecture, cybersecurity or cloud engineering, then great, right? Because these are going to become more and more important. Or if you have an interest in these areas, then consider whether this is something you want to continue to focus on developing skills in. But if not, and these things aren't what you're interested in, then don't worry. Luckily, jobs are also changing too. Here are some of the suggested jobs for the future, and I'm sure you can think of many more, like a work from home facilitator. As we start to use technology to lead meetings and presentations, our ability to do this well, to do what I'm doing now, to do it well, is becoming a desired skill and role. And as most of us start to work from home or work more flexibly, being able to create spaces for people to work in our houses will also start to increase. And as I said to you, my role, it didn't exist 20 years ago, but the increased importance of people at work, ensuring they're engaged, motivated, retained in a highly competitive market, and really attract the best talent has become much more important as the world of work has changed. It's likely that you will have a job in 20 years' time that doesn't exist now. So instead of worrying about what job you're going to have, you're going to have to start thinking about building that breadth of skills and being ready to adapt and change as roles and the way of work starts to change. So let's start talking about understanding yourself and building on that career resilience. And there's many ways that you can start to explore what you enjoy and value from work. And I have plenty of resources at the end of this presentation for you to refer to. What I want to do is focus on whatever is going to hold you back from achieving your career of dreams or your career of choice, whichever direction you're ready to go in. And so we're going to start by talking about confidence and confidence gremlins. So what is confidence? Confidence is the belief that you can control or learn to control your outcomes. A great company called Amazing If have highlighted 10 confidence gremlins here, which I'm sharing with you. This is not an exhaustive list, and I'm sure you can think of more. But also, I'd like you to have a reflection and maybe, again, put it in the chat or feel free to share if there's a confidence gremlin that you relate to. As careers change, different gremlins might evolve and might surface for you. For example, I used to hate presenting because I was worried that I didn't know enough and I would be put on the spot. Now I still get nervous, but I can manage my confidence gremlins because I've worked out how to make me feel more confident, and that's preparing. I need to prepare and I need to practice and I need to run through. I used to worry I was too young, and I used to worry that people wouldn't like me, that I'd say something that they would disagree with. And the last one is something I still battle with today. So whatever your confidence gremlins, how do you build the confidence you need to overcome these limiting beliefs and achieve your goals, particularly when we first don't succeed? So I appreciate saying you've got self-confidence issues. How do you get over that? So I'm going to give you 4 tips now and use Dr. Worrell, who's a best-selling author and speaker, to help us tackle that. And what Dr. Worrell purports is the most important lesson she has learned thus far in her career is that courage is required for every worthwhile endeavour, and that the human spirit is greater than any challenge we face. So let's look at those 4 ways. The first way is act as if. Research shows that when we change our behavior, emotions will eventually follow. So it's important to realize that you should never wait to feel confident before you act with confidence. And I'm not talking about being fake, I'm talking about embodying the posture, the expression and energy of someone who feels confident in themselves. And research says as well that if we shift ourselves physically, it can shift how we feel emotionally. So start with your posture, facial expression, stand, walk tall, confidently, look people in the eye, smile, and own you. When I used to lead workshops with really senior stakeholders, I used to get so nervous and felt like, how do I get to stand up and present something in front of them when I'm, much more junior than them? And I always was very, very self-confident about that. And so what I used to do was purposefully walk around the room before I started and introduce myself to each person one by one. And what that did was assert myself as an equal, that I was their friend, that I was connected to them before I stood up at the front and started presenting. Then I had allies, I had people I could smile at in the room. I was making myself appear, and that set my confidence at ease. So there's always something you can do to act as if. Number two, don't talk yourself down. I mean, this might feel one of those really obvious ones, right? But our words literally create our reality. Our subconscious mind can't discern between truth and fiction. Rather, it listens to everything you say and processes it as truth. So when you say to yourself, oh, I'm really hopeless at networking, or I'm never gonna get that job, or I'm a walking disaster at job interviews, or my experience isn't good enough, or whatever it might be, your subconscious processes those words as truth, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you want to feel more confident, reposition your language. Choose what you say in an action-oriented way. So for example, every job interview has provided me with valuable lessons. I'm learning with each time, or I'm getting better at speaking at meetings, or I'm getting better at achieving my goals. Whatever you do, don't talk about yourself negatively. It serves no one. 3, pursue stretch challenges. And this is a great one. And this is one that, if I had to talk back to my 20-year-old self, I would say do more, fail more, risk more. If you wait until you're going to succeed at something before you try, you can wait your whole entire life. The real recipe to success is not to wait until you've attained mastery before stepping out of your comfort zone. Stretch challenges allow you to build mastery. We are all wired to avoid situations where we put ourselves at risk of failure. It's just natural instinct, right, to play it safe, not want to hurt your pride or status or ego. But the truth is, the only way to build confidence is to put yourself in situations in the short term that feel uncomfortable. But not only that, you should be actively seeking these out, because they are the best way that you will learn and grow. Avoiding these situations really deprives you of the opportunity to build your confidence and to succeed at bigger things. Pursue stretch challenges. 4, and the final one, is really kick fear out of the driving seat. Fear is one potent emotion that is driven to keep us safe and protect us from pain. But in this day and age, it's much more about emotional pain. It's our fear of failing. So be very intentional in your choices. Don't let fear run and shape your life without you realizing it. Ask yourself, when you're hesitant at putting yourself forward for a job, or reluctant to ask for a promotion, or ask for a work-life balance that you want, ask yourself, is this fear that's serving me, or is it holding me back? And if the answer is the latter, take a deep breath, count down from 5. Against there's research that says if you do this in your brain, you will actually shortcut that thinking. Count down for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stand tall and move into action. The more often you do that, the more confident and courageous you'll become, I promise. Just try. So don't forget, we're doing all of this to make ourselves more resilient with our career, and continue regularly evolving what skills you need, what you need to learn to evolve the next wave in your career, and more importantly, build an understanding of yourself. So what is it that you enjoy? What do you want to do? And don't be too hard on yourself. We all make mistakes, and this is where we learn and where the learning happens. Finally, listen to the advice of others, but trust your gut. Your instinct about what's right for you in your career is right. The worst thing that can happen is making a mistake, but what a great learning opportunity. So thank you for listening to me present out some context on career resilience. If you want to dive into these resources in more detail, I've put some links here. I will make the document available. Amazing If, which I talked about earlier, have some brilliant podcasts. So you can click on that here. If you want to work on your confidence gremlins on one of those 10, I have a brilliant PDF for you here. If you're not sure what you value from work or work environments, then the Career Anchors by Edgar Schein is a really great place to start. And if you're not sure what your preferences are, so learning a bit more about you, whether you're going to enjoy certain types of brainstorming or are you more technically minded, then MBTI is also a really great free resource that you can dive into and get a better understanding of yourself. So let me just ask the group, what questions do you have? Anything that wasn't clear that you'd like to talk about or ask any questions? I can see there are some in the chat.
Thank you, Jay. There were a couple of 2 or 3 interesting comments, particularly regarding confidence gremlins. I wonder if Day and Hibby could speak up and mention about their confidence gremlins and any questions they might have. Day, do you want to go first?
Hi, and thank you for the great talk. It was really insightful into how to approach your career. I think about the confidence gremlins, it gets to me that sometimes I don't know enough to excel or do really well, and I get lost in my own thoughts. So that's what I've struggled with before in the past. So it was really insightful in how to approach some of the things in your career. So yeah, that was my question.
And I mean, I would say, I think that nobody will tell you that they know enough. And the day that somebody says, I know enough, is the day that someone has stopped learning. So this is a great question to have. You should always not know enough, and you should be comfortable to explore. And it sounds to me more like just a limiting belief there, that you're making that mean something negative about yourself. And actually, it isn't anything negative about yourself. It's more that perhaps there's an expectation that you should know something. And again, that's an external input onto yourself. So, I mean, I would tell you as well, in every environment, every role that I've taken, there's always going to be a gap in my capability in the role that I'm doing. In the workforce today, there are very few individuals that have every single capability for the role. And there are some things which we prioritize over others. And so it's not often about what you know, it's more about who you are, your values, how you show up, how you commit to a team. Those are the things really that people value. Knowledge is something that can be learned. I hope that helps. I know it's really difficult when someone says, just change your change your mindset. But I really hope you don't make not knowing enough mean something negative.
Thank you so much, Jay, and thank you, Dave, for asking the question. I have a question before other mentees might present you with further questions. Earlier, you talked about the 2 factors that are needed to fulfill your potential. One being discovering what it is that you want to do in your career. And then the other thing was to have the confidence and drive and motivation to make it happen. In your experience, Jay, is it always the case that if someone has discovered what they're really gifted at, of course they would be motivated and driven about it? Is that always the case?
No, not necessarily. And I think environment plays an awful lot on people's motivation. So you might be really clear about what you want. And by the way, I think that's a very few people know exactly what they want all the time. There's always an element, I think, for people where new opportunities might be shown to them and it might change what they originally thought they wanted. But environment has a big impact on someone's ability to be motivated. If you are a parent, for example, other things can take priorities in your career. If you're if you're a carer in any sense, really, that can also have an impact. And confidence can hold you back. So you might really care about being a musician or a chef, and everyone in your life is telling you that that's not a valid job, right? And you shouldn't be doing that job. And so therefore you're less motivated to go out because you're thinking that it's not the right thing. So they aren't mutually exclusive or correlated at all, which is why it's helpful to do that reflection, because it does help you think, what is holding me back from getting where I want to get to.
Thank you, Jay. I wonder if any other mentees have any questions for Jay, any further questions before we move on to the career stories section.
Hello, my name is Heba. I have a question, if that's okay. I want to start off by saying thank you for that presentation. I found it very interesting. Also, since you did mention career resilience, I wanted to ask, like, if you have any advice for a student and how to develop that from now, to just get more resilient and then transfer that into their career long term, what would that be?
So we talked about the different models. So part of it is about having flexibility with your skills. So making sure that you're able to ride the next wave of your career. So typically now that would mean not getting too fixed on one thing, not getting too fixed on one career, because as you grow older, as life changes, you're going to want to do different things. So keeping abreast of skills that you're interested in and learning is probably the biggest piece. But then the other piece is getting to really know yourself and what you enjoy doing. Do you want to work for a company? Do you want to set up social media businesses? There are many options now for for anybody really to take from a career point of view. And career resilience is allowing yourself to try and to flex when things don't go as you expect them to go. One of the things you'll hear in my career story is that I, very young in my age, felt that I wasn't following a career path and I didn't really know what I was doing. And now I look back at that time as one of the best periods of my life. And so I would say, even if you don't know what you want and you're trying on different things, then that is the right path for you. You are doing the right things. And through that, if you're learning, you will build career resilience. Has that answered your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Jay. So if I may suggest, shall we move to your career story, Jay, and what got you to this point?
Yes, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and just give me 2 seconds to do this. Right. The problem with having 3 screens is it's very effective until you need to do something quickly.
That's okay. So, take your time.
So a little bit about me and my career story. So I'm now working in an area that I absolutely love, which is talent management. But my career hasn't always felt like this. I haven't always felt like I'm in the right place. I haven't always felt like that. I didn't love myself, my career as I do now. And when I was from like 16 until about 25, I felt like I had lots to give, but I just couldn't work out what I was supposed to give. I was like, I'm sure I'm good at something, but I just can't work out what it is. And I ended up changing roles regularly. I got really bored with the roles that I had. And, for example, between that period, I trained as a hairdresser. I lived in Canada for a year as a ski school instructor, became a snowboard instructor. I traveled Australia for 3 months. I worked in France on a campsite in the summer. I lived in Rome and taught English as a foreign language. I think I literally did everything except work in an office, right? I was determined not to have a proper job. And all of my friends were in uni. They were, getting their first jobs. They were doing sandwich years, which was a thing, when I was younger, where you do a year in a business, and they were all building up all this great career experience. And I was sitting there going, oh gosh. And I was trying to enter the world of work as a peer when they had been in their careers. So I honestly, I felt like a bit of a failure and that I wasn't an equal to them. But now I look back at that time and I learned things that they haven't learned. I learned so much resilience through being in different environments. I had made some of my best friends, and the resilience of dealing with different bosses, different environments really did set me up. And if you fast forward 15 years now, I actually look back at that and I had a lot of hardships, but I also had some real highs. And my friends now are taking career breaks because they've realized that their career, that sort of drive, was their parents in their ear going, you need a degree, you need to go to school, you need to do this. And they were doing it, right? That's what they were doing. And I was sort of reversed now. All of my friends are saying, do I even want this work? Do I want to work? How do I change my work? I found what I love, and I'm really, thriving now. So I think the biggest takeaway for me is everyone's career is going to look different. You might mess about at the beginning, in the middle, at the end. It honestly, it really doesn't matter, because I think you always, if you're following what you love, what you enjoy, and that is aligned to your skill, which is typically what you enjoy doing, you're typically good at what you enjoy. If that's the case, then your career will move in the direction that makes you happy. It's only when you do things for other people, you do things that you're expected to do, that's when you find a misalignment. So I did go to uni, I did go back, I did study a master's, I did do all of that, but I did it on topics that I cared about when I wanted to do, and it made a huge difference to my learning, being the choice of learning, not being told because I was a particular age. So I have my final remarks and top tips, because Matt's keeping me good on time. So my personal top tips: there is no right or wrong way to plan your career. Spend time working out what you enjoy doing, as this is likely to be where your natural skill and strengths are. I think I've said that already, but just to confirm. Learn to trust your gut and back yourself. You know more than you give yourself credit for. Don't worry about getting it right. Get moving. Build your career resilience. Make mistakes. Don't worry about it. You will experience hardships, and all of us, you might even be experiencing a hardship now in your life. But everybody will go through peaks and troughs. The important piece is to take ownership and take direction and shift your mindset or shift your situation. And finally, you're 100% responsible for your career. And I would love you to take away a career by choice, your choice, not a career by chance. So let me pass on to Matt. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks, Joy, and hello, everyone. Can I just check? Joy, everyone, you can hear me okay? Can you hear me okay, folks?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Yep.
we can, yeah.
Good, just checking. Folks, hello. Let me introduce myself, and I'm going to be very quick in my introduction. I'm Matt Forrest. I'm an HR manager here at Anglo American Mining. I've pursued a career in human resource management over around 25 years now. I've been very lucky that career has taken me to many other countries in the world. I've lived and worked in Asia, in Malaysia, in the Philippines, working as an HR professional, different countries in Europe. I've had a great time in my career, but I want to be quick with my introduction to myself, because I've been sitting here actually reflecting on some advice that Elim gave you folks right at the start of this discussion about front-loading the interesting stuff. I want to give that a try. I'm also intrigued by everything Joy had to say, her insights into the shift towards varied careers, something that you folks will inevitably experience as you begin your working lives. I say lucky you, by the way. I was also struck by what Joy had to say on the importance of confidence, and I think you should feel a degree of confidence, as I think you're at the beginning of something great. So, front-loading the interesting stuff, the beauty of varied careers, and confidence. So let me try and tie a few of these things together as I introduce myself. So I said I'm an HR professional by background. I've been working in the field of human resource management for 25 years now. But if you want the interesting stuff, if you want evidence of the varied experiences in my career, in my time as an HR professional, I've seen a UFO, and I can confirm that they do exist. I've managed an Oscar winner, and I narrowly avoided a career move that would have led to me authoring erotic fiction. Now, I'm not going to tell you any more about that in the Zoom call today. You can ask me about that separately, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll tell you a little more. But funny stories aside, the reason I'm telling you that as I reflect looking back on my career is just what fun I've had, just what amazing experiences I've had. Now, you're at the beginning, I think, of an amazing journey, and you should, I think, look forward to it. Look forward to it with a degree of confidence. I would say you're going to have a great time, I think. So I want to make the point that this is not when the fun stops and the serious stuff starts. It's just not as clear cut as that as you're beginning your career. Tell you a bit about my career, a little bit more about my career. So I studied literature at university, and I wanted to put my studies to good use in the career that I chose after university. So I considered teaching, I considered an academic career, or in fact, what I plumped for initially after graduating from university was working in publishing, and I got a trainee position working for a publishing company, but it didn't start until 7-8 months after I graduated. The position only began at the start of that company's financial year, which was the start of the calendar year, and I pretty much finished my studies in May. So I had some time on my hands, and I needed some money. So I signed up with a temporary work agency. I carried out a few assignments for them over the course of the first month that I was with them, and then they asked me to go and work as an administrator with an energy company close to where I lived at the time. That company was running a very big project, completely changing the way that it operated. They found out I had 6 months to spare and asked me to stick around. Lucky me. Now I found that I really enjoyed the work that they were asking me to do. It was administrative work. It was basic organizational work, making sure that tasks were completed, that procedures were followed, things were done on time. There was something about that work that just appealed to me, perhaps appealed to something within me that maybe I always knew was there, maybe I didn't. I like structure and order. I like organizing things. When things are disorganized, I get a kick out of getting involved and sorting that out. And this role brought that out in me. And after a few weeks, I told the publishing company that I wouldn't be joining them after all. I stuck with a local company. They helped me pick up experience in project management and then basic human resource management. After a while, perhaps because I was enthusiastic about something that I clearly enjoyed doing, they asked me to go through the application process to become a full-time employee. And that's where and how my career began. So when I reflect on this, what did this mean to me? What did it mean to my career? What does it mean perhaps to you? Try to translate what this means to you. I would say, firstly, keep your eyes open for opportunities. Don't be rigid in relation to your goals and ambitions. Secondly, if you enjoy doing something, you're probably going to excel at it, and you'll probably stick with it for longer, and that will probably be better for you. So keep an eye out for things that you really find you enjoy doing. Thirdly, and I accept it's pretty easy for me to say this because I was lucky. I went into a temporary role with no expectations, found that I really enjoyed it, and look where it took me. But that temporary work agency sent me to do some work with other companies in the first month that I was working with them. And I didn't enjoy those assignments so much. However, I did the work, and I think it was because of that resilience and enthusiasm that I showed, that they offered me another opportunity that I did enjoy, that led to some great experiences throughout my career. So again, keep your eyes open for that opportunity.
Thanks, Matt.
Folks, it's lovely to meet you, and I look forward to talking to a few of you a little more in a few moments. Agnes, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Thank you, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm Agnes. I joined Anglo American just over a year ago as a continuous improvement principal. You probably don't know what I'm meant to do in my job. So, in a nutshell, my job is to streamline and improve our HR processes to make life easier for everybody. And so that's just in a nutshell. And I probably do more than that, but that gives you an idea on what I do. Before I joined Anglo American, I worked for a global company for about 20 years and spending a decade in HR services. And the first decade of my career was in finance and quality management. Quality management is about process improvement. So I went from finance to quality to HR and then to HR services. So the kind of, over a duration of about 20 years. When I was younger, like 6 or 7, I always wanted to be a police officer because as my mom said, I like to see things black and white. So is it either right or is wrong? So when people do something wrong, I get a bit frustrated. So I thought, being a police officer would be the best job for me, the best career for me. And then as I get older, or maybe not a police officer. So in my teenage years, I wanted to be a lawyer, and still in the discipline, kind of area. So I haven't turned into a lawyer. I have, got into finance and accounting, quality, and then HR and HR services. That has been a really fun journey for me because I was with a company that allowed me to have the opportunities to grow. And of course, when the opportunities are there, you grab them, right? Sometimes you have to go after them, you have to find them. And sometimes, people will come and ask you, okay, well, we think you can do more than what you do today. So do you want to give it a try? Oh, yes, I would like to give it a try. So what I, sort of kind of my key messages to you is you are at the beginning of your career, as Matt pointed out. Be proactive, be proactive and also be kind to yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. We don't know everything. I learned about water management yesterday. I was fascinated. And so everybody doesn't know everything. And I don't speak a lot of languages. I speak 2 languages. And I think many of you on the phone also speak, more than 1 language. And I think there's a gift. And if anybody ever challenges you for having an accent or speak using the wrong words, just tell them that you can speak another language better than they can. I'm just kidding here, but be kind to yourself. You have got a lot to offer. You have a bright path ahead of you. So I'm looking forward to speaking to some of you in more detail as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Agnes.
Thank you so much, Agnes. Your career and what you described is the perfect example of what I saw as the common denominator since your childhood, which is making sure people adhere to rules, policies, and procedures. I really get that. I really get that being from a process background, and it's highly rewarding for some of us to make sure that everyone adheres to policies and procedures, time and budget. So it's a perfect example of how one should think about where their technical gifts and abilities are, but also what suits their character and purpose. So Agnes, your career was a perfect example of that. And Matt, for me, your career actually made me make a mental note that I should trust my instincts more. I was so impressed by what you described, that at such a young age, you had the guts to say no to what you had planned, which was a job in a publishing, and to go with your gut instinct where you were doing really right. That is incredible courage for a young person. Really, my hat off to you. And of course, Jay, to be willing to try different things in order to find what you love and enjoy and are brilliant at, also takes incredible courage and flexibility, which I also made a mental note for myself that I should do more of. So thank you to all of you. I think we've got about 5 to 10 minutes for any questions from our mentees who are on the line. So I would encourage them to speak up or type in the chat, preferably speak up. Any questions or comments that they might have.
I wonder whether we even go back to the original questions and see how comfortable people are about answering, how clear they are about what they want, you know, at this point.
Very good question. I think it was on a scale of 1 to 10.
1 to 10,
they know?
Yeah.
Do they know what you want to do?
Yeah.
So apologies. So on a scale of 1 to 10, who wants to volunteer? On a scale of 1 to 10, do they know what they want, what career they want to do? Maybe I can start by saying what I went through. Actually, unlike Jay, I didn't experiment enough early in my career. I kind of thought, okay, I'm good at maths, so I'm going to do finance, and I'm going to get into a big company, and I'm going to become a finance director as fast as I can. And I loved being a finance director, and I loved the business side of it. But now when I look back, actually, I would have enjoyed deviating a little bit and doing a science degree, because I loved science. So why didn't I do a science degree? Why did I think of the quickest way to climb that finance ladder? I could have deviated a little bit and done a science degree and see where that takes me, because I loved science so much. Who knows what would have been the case if I had done that. So it's just examples. I see that, so if you could change anything about your career pathway. So the question has come up. If you could change anything about your career pathways, what would you change, to our panelists? And Diego and Salima as well, if you wanted to answer that question, if you could change anything about your career pathways, what would you change?
I usually ask this, my group CEO and the directors, something very similar is, what would you tell to your younger self? And, what is, if you look 10, 15 years, I don't know anyone's age. So I see people smiling now, what would you say, to Agnes, Jay, and Matt? What would you advise, 10, 15, 20 years? Because if my advice would be patient. I'm not a very patient person. And to your point, Elam, I always felt when I was young, I was always in a rush. I always wanted things now and then. And it seems that like this fleeting idea in my head that I had to be a CEO by 30, or I had to, make a certain amount of money by 40, and a kids and family and a dog and 3 cars. And of course, one of them had to be a Ferrari by 50. And life all works in a mysterious way. And I haven't achieved any of that, but I've achieved a lot more in other things, and that's fine. So the question still prevails for Jay, Agnes, and Matt. Well, if you had one advice to give your younger self of 18, 20, what would it be?
Diego, I really enjoyed your reflections there. And I'm thinking of something else that Dave said a little earlier in the call, where he worried more about what at this point in his life and his career he didn't know than what he does know. I think I experienced some of those same thoughts when I was a young career professional. I was intimidated by what I didn't know. I'm an individual that likes to be in control of things, so I'm comfortable when I'm in command of my brief, when I know what's going on. So I felt a little intimidated when I began my career by just the sheer weight and amount of stuff that I didn't know. And yet I was surrounded by all these folks with years and years of expertise, and they knew it. To my mind, they knew absolutely everything. If I could go back now and talk to my younger self, I'd say, relax, show some humility. Show some humility. I'd say your older self, one of the things that your older self really enjoys about working with young career professionals is their energy, their enthusiasm, their capacity to learn, their willingness to learn. And that's all born out of the fact that they don't know everything, and they have an enthusiasm to learn things. So as you're beginning your career, guys, show some humility. Be humble. Acknowledge what it is that you do know and what it is that you don't know. I think that's one of the ways that you'll forge a very close bond with the new teams, the new folks of all different ages, of all different levels of career experience that you'll get to know as you begin your careers, your working lives.
I like to add my thought. Oh, sorry, Matt.
No, you go. Go, Agnes.
Oh, sorry. I like to add my thought. First of all, thank you for asking the question. I think it's a great question. Actually, it made me think, as to what would I have done differently. So I was with this company for over 20-ish years. I had 9 jobs in 3 continents. I had an amazing journey. But there was one particular role that now I thought back. I was in this team, and my manager wasn't as supportive as I expected her to be. I was a bit worried about if I changed the job, within 6 to 9 months, it's going to hurt my career. So I stuck to it for 2 years. And I must admit that, probably among those 9 jobs that I have, that was the job that I enjoyed the least. It's not because of what I had to do, what my job was about. It was about the people around me. So I think if I had to go and talk to myself at that point in time, I would have said to myself that it is time for a change, and you do it for yourself, and it's the right thing to do. And I probably would have raised my hand, sooner and say, is there anything else? I mean, I'm going to start looking around, to see what are there other opportunities out there. So that would be my reflection. But thank you for asking that question. I never thought about it, actually. So thank you.
So I would, mine is slightly different, so I'm probably not answering the question. But I was going to say, I think that there's a shift in power that's happening or has happened, where when I was, in my 20s or earlier, the older generation were the most knowledgeable because we didn't have the internet, didn't have anything. I looked up at them and they knew everything, and it was very much hierarchical. Now in the organizations, the leaders are trying to keep up with Generation Z, right? So you guys are the ones who know how the world is going to change. You're the ones who are going to know how to get things done in technology, how to move in this agile world, because you've grown up in it. Everyone else is learning how to do it. So there is definitely a change now where there is much more power being placed in your hands than any other generation that has gone before. And so you're in a great opportunity to really capitalize on who you are and what you know, because you are the future of the organization, without sounding too, dramatic. But I would say that is a huge difference from when I was, growing up. And I think that you should capitalize on that.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Before we close off, before the next session starts at 6 o'clock, Donat has a question for you. He's asking, how can we question the status quo and portray opinions in a respectful manner, but also in an assertive and certain manner?
Isn't Donat isn't the answer partly embedded within your question? You can question the status quo in a respectful manner. I don't think you can raise a question with a very high degree of certainty that you're right and someone else is wrong. That's not raising a question in a respectful manner. But if you do raise a question in a respectful manner, if you're open-minded, if you're willing to debate with folks, I think you'll do very well.
I agree.
Really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think
we've lost Agnes.
Yes, I think Agnes is frozen.
Yes, her laptop's gone. But I mean, I agree with what Matt was saying, and probably what Agnes was about to say as well, is that if you ask a question with genuine interest and you're genuinely curious, then that is being respectful. And people, if they feel challenged by that, then that is, you can't control how other people, if you've been respectful, you can't control how other people react. But if you ask with curiosity and openness to the response, then you will have portrayed that respectful manner.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for those really insightful answers. We're going to have to wind down this webinar now. It has been absolutely fantastic to have you Anglo-American guys here. Thank you for your incredible knowledge and experience sharing. And I know that our mentees who joined have benefited greatly, and those who will review the video will benefit equally. So thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon, and we will be initiating the next session now. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank
all.
you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.